So, this is a video that has been going around the old YouTube, and a few people messaged it to me saying, Simon, you should do this. And I thought, yeah, being 20 was a good 15 years or so for me. And you do learn a lot in those 15 years. It's kind of crazy. So look, if anybody's watching this and you are of that age and you think it can help, sweet. And if not, well, you watched it anyway. So minute 10 is that it doesn't matter that you don't drink. Now, obviously, this is going to be very specific to me in the way that I dealt with my own trials and tribulations. But actually, it's far more acceptable in 2023, which is a good thing, right? I think a lot more people now are staying away from alcohol or just making the lifestyle choice. They don't feel the need to drink. That was not the case, especially when I decided to go to university. I know we've talked about this on videos before, but in case you don't know, because it does tie in. I essentially gave up alcohol on my 30th birthday. Not my 30th birthday, my 18th birthday. Went out, got super drunk like lots of people did. I was violently sick and ill the next day, and I did that thing where I said to myself, oh, I'm never going to drink again. But I meant it. Like, I meant it kind of ties into other things. I'm a very tenacious fellow. And it was kind of a strange time to decide not to drink, because one, I was about to go to university, obviously 18 years old, and I was very lucky to be in a halls of residence, as they call it over here, with a bunch of individuals that did understand, or actually more intrigued than they were critical about it. But there were still certain social occasions where I would get mad social anxiety, especially when I went into my first job. You know, I was told by a few people that in this, I won't say what it is, if you know my life, you know where it will be. You know, you're never going to be able to succeed in this way if you don't drink, because obviously a lot of drinking culture does kind of tie into go out and networking, etc. And I took that as a challenge, and actually I was able to navigate it quite well. However, it did really, really do a number on me. For sure, absolutely. Before I used to go out, I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible. People are going to give me a hard time. When actually you grow up and you realize if anybody does react that way to you, it's only the word problem is way too much. But whatever issue they have with it, it's actually internalized on their end, because maybe they feel like they have to have a drink in order to tell out and to have a conversation with someone, which is also perfectly fine. Like, everything in moderation and balance is key, as I always say. And as soon as I did realize that, all of a sudden you don't care anymore. But I remember that one of my biggest fears when I was younger was, do you want to drink? To the point I used to do that trick where you would say yes, you'd buy a bottle of beer, you'd pour the beer out, you'd replace it with water, you just drink it the entire evening and nobody would ever know. And I'd love to go back and tell that guy, you really don't need to worry about this. It's not a problem. Again, it's most definitely them and not you. That old cliche. So I suppose the way I can tie into this video and try and make it to some sort of advice, I suppose, is if you have anything like that, just stand by it. You're doing the right thing. As long as it feels correct to you and it's in your heart, and it's in your soul, and it's in your loins, then it's the right thing to do. And nobody should ever be able to dictate how you do live your life. And it is just true. The good news is, even if you aren't able to embrace that in your 20s, I promise you, when you get to 30, all of a sudden you won't give a flub anymore. And number 9 is that lifting weights is not everything, which is also something that I prioritized way too much in my 20s, because I think I'd bought into this ridiculous hype, again, that we talk about all the time on the channel, that suffering and struggling, that's the way that you get big, and that's the way you get the physique that you want, and you must be strict all of the time, and if you don't eat every 2 to 3 hours, the gains monster will come and steal these things away from you. And look, because this is the crutch of a lot of my videos, we'll keep this one short. It's just not true. Should you go to the gym? Yes. Or should you say healthy, I should say? Of course, fitness is really good for you, and it's going to prolong your life, but it shouldn't be the be all and end all, and it certainly shouldn't take you down a path where you're like, well, you know, this is taking over everything, because it's not going to work. And that doesn't mean you can't take it seriously. It doesn't mean you can't be dedicated. I'm talking about where, and I did it, you cross over that line and all of a sudden it feels all encompassing and you kind of feel trapped by it. You never want to do that, because you will look back. I don't regret it, because I learned a lot from it, and maybe it helped. You know, there's certain things that maybe I got from it too, but I certainly could have been a lot more lenient with it and actually got the same results, because if nothing else, my cortisol levels were probably through the roof. So of course, get your plan, get your diet. 9 times out of 10, make sure you're sticking with it. But if you do find yourself in a scenario, that 10 out of 10 time, well, you just need to take your foot off. Promise you, you'll be perfectly okay. Just hit the accelerator again tomorrow. And number 8 is just to go and try shit. Now, actually, this is something that I've done the last few years. It's one of the things that I enjoy. Sounds like a weird thing to say, but this is an honest video. I love it when somebody sends me a message saying, Simon, how do you do all of these things? And I suppose because that was always an aim. So if somebody else realizes it, like, oh man, I actually achieved this. The things that usually come up is I wanted to be a wrestler, so I just went and became a wrestler. I wanted to be in a band, so I just went and started a band. I wanted to do YouTube, so I just started making YouTube videos. Recently, I wanted to do acting, so I just went and acted. And I guess I was doing this in my 20s because, you know, my first job, I wanted to get involved with video games, so I just thought, I'm going to go and become a video game journalist, I suppose would be the word. But I certainly know that 15 years ago or so, I was far more just apprehensive about it and worried about it. And now I realize that that actually is the success of life. In my opinion, what do I know? Absolutely nothing. It's not actually doing something and becoming Dwayne Johnson or Brad Pitt or Harry Styles, whoever you want to throw in there. It's actually just putting yourself in the situation to begin with, so you know that when you are 70, 80, 90, and you're looking back on your life, you can go, you know what, at least I tried. You know, even with stuff with the band. MG and the Juggernaut, if you want to check it out, there's some really, really good stuff and there's some really, really bad stuff, mostly because I took a long while to sort of learn how to do the recording process, but hey ho, it's out there. You know, we take our wins and we take our losses. But something I always tell people now is if you want to do something, just go and do it. And it's not going to be easy, and of course you're going to be anxious about it and apprehensive about it because you're a human. But once you put yourself in that scenario, as long as you're honest with yourself, and if you don't like it, walk away and go try something else, it means the opposite of that. As you do like it, sweet, you know, you've absolutely smashed it. So I guess that's a confidence thing, and that probably comes with just being alive and having to take your licks and take your failures. But actually ties into something that I haven't put on here, although maybe it should be number one. We can get back to it should we need be. But just dare to fail, right? It's a silly saying. It's a silly cliche in many ways, but it is true. Dare to put yourself in a position where it may all go bad, and remind yourself that actually it can't go bad because you took the opportunity to begin with. Number 7 is to embrace your uniqueness. Now, I don't know what this is going to be. You may be a bit of a goof. You may be a hard ass. It may be many a thing, but I certainly know that I don't want to say I put on a facade, but in many ways, you actually know who you are when you're 20. I don't want to get too philosophical here, but you don't. I remember when I became 30, all of a sudden, just like, this is me, I don't care anymore. And all of a sudden, half my worries just fluttered away. Now, 50% of worries then came back to me, like the specter of death, but we don't need to worry about that. There are certain things that you know are categorically you and make up you as a person. Just embrace them, man, because if you try and shift them off to one side or you try and bury them in the dirt, you won't be happy anyway. I suppose I can tie this into my videos, maybe more of my What Culture Wrestling videos, which of course you can check out, especially the ups and downs stuff. I felt at first that I had to be like, not serious, it's ridiculous, it's huge, but maybe funny in a different way. And then after a while, and you get comfortable too doing the whole filming cameras and stuff, I was just like, this is not me, I'm an idiot, I'm a moron, I have a goofy sense of humor, dumb stuff makes me laugh, so I'm going to embrace that. When I did do that, all of a sudden the whole thing became much more fun. It's a lot like my wrestling as well. I felt like I had to be, oh, I'm so serious, I'm going to whip your bum. But no, it's much more fun where I'm just me. And of course, characters and stuff, that's a different conversation. But if there is anything that you know that's legal, by the way, nothing weird, if you do something weird, you gotta go talk to somebody or be arrested. But if you are doing something, people are trying to make out that you are bad for doing it, and it's not hurting anybody else, and just embrace it. Like, it's not going to go away. You're always going to come back, and it makes you who you are. And nobody else is like you. I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but it is true. And I find that when we're kind to ourselves, right, let's get into this weird territory. When we are kind to ourselves in that respect, it just makes life so much easier. And ultimately, you've got to put yourself at number one, because if you're not taking care of yourself, who the flub's going to? Number 6 is a quick one as well, because we chatted about this. It doesn't matter if you go bald, especially in 2023. There are so many different pills and systems that you can now embrace because they're everywhere. That was not the case when I lost my hair. I don't have to go to Turkey and drop like 15 grand. I'm not doing that, or Harley Street. But I promise you, even if you don't want to do that, which I didn't, because it will muck around with your hormones too, you've got to be really careful with that stuff. Or you just don't have the finances, I absolutely promise you, it will suck for about 2 weeks, because of course, let's say you're 28 years old, you've had 28 years with hair, and now all of a sudden you don't have any hair. But in 2 weeks, your brain and your body are marvelous things, they catch up, and all of a sudden it doesn't matter anymore. I stressed and stressed and stressed for years as I saw it shedding and getting, shorter and shorter and shorter. And then I did it, and honestly, it took about a month, and I was like, I don't care anymore. What the hell was I worrying about? It is wasted worries. That doesn't mean you can't worry about it, because I did it too. But even if this takes the edge off just a little bit, trust me, there are far worse things in the world. Maybe you shave it off, and maybe you look absolutely awesome. And you know what? You will. Number 5, again, we're getting into the internet territory here. It's best to ignore negative people, right? That is something I've learned massively as I've gotten older. And this could be people in your family. This could be people that you consider friends. Doesn't mean you have to boot them out of your life entirely, but it does mean if you're going to talk to them and you know they're going to bring a negative kind of energy, just make sure you take everything they say with a pinch of salt again and just kick it away. Kick it away. Like, you choose how words affect you, right? So if anyone does say anything, you're like, no, that's not a cool thing. And you realize it's a pattern, but you still feel like they need to be involved in your life for whatever reason. Again, man, relationships are difficult. Go in there with that kind of acknowledgement, and it makes it so much damn easier. It truly, truly does. I have had so many people in my life that will talk you down, or, are basically pasting their own, I don't like the term failures, but their own worries on stuff that you're doing to try and make it feel like that you shouldn't be doing it either. And it's just not true. What works for one person may or may not work for somebody else, but you can't follow somebody else's path because they have completely different experiences and they have completely different wants for you. So you're never going to be able to get negativity out of your life, because again, we live in in a world where there's billions and billions of people. But if you know that they're coming at you with a negative stance, then you can be prepared for it. That's like anything in life, right? If you're prepared for it, all of a sudden it's 10 times easier. That's what they get told in school when it comes to some kind of essay or some kind of exam. Just make sure you're prepared for it, and it's the same with this. But do not let their negative energy affect you, and also be self-aware enough to know when they do, right? And you can just not embrace it, so to speak, but you can then work through it, and then eventually you'll learn just to kick it away. It's like getting social media comments. When I first started to build a little bit of a platform, comments or tweets, whatever it may be, random DMs, they wouldn't kill me, but they'd irk me. Now you can send me whatever you want, I just don't care. Because again, we build up a thick skin to this. And not in a bad way. We're not ignoring it. We're not sort of putting ourselves through the ringer. That's just what we do as human beings. We try and protect ourselves as much as possible. And make sure you do it the same with this. Surround yourself with positive people. Remain positive as you can. It doesn't mean being happy and over the top all the time or ignoring sadness. It just means trying to find the best in life, but also being kind to yourself when you do need to have a melancholy day or you do need to have a down day. That still counts as being positive. The positive approach is, all right, today isn't going to be an absolute smasher. So let's do what I need to do emotionally, and then we'll move on to tomorrow. Number 4 is wrestling is awesome, so enjoy it. I bet if you're my age, we all have to go through this, especially at school. You weren't allowed to tell anyone you like professional wrestling because apparently you're a geek, you're a nerd, and I even got bullied for it and beaten up for it. Well, now we live in a world where everyone sickly loves wrestling. Everything is wrestling. If there's something else in your life, I'm trying to think what it could be. Maybe you're really into One Direction. I mean, that wouldn't be a problem. Everyone loves flipping One Direction. But maybe there's something in your life that you feel is a passion that you have to hide. Don't hide it, man. Wear it on your sleeve. Heart on the sleeve, all that kind of a stuff. If something has spoken to you, once again, it's perfectly above board and you're not doing anything too weird, then it's part of your cosmetic makeup. When you do embrace this stuff, well, maybe you'll one day be on YouTube ranting and raving about it and being like, how the hell did I get here? Number 3 is a nice one as well. A bit of advice to you is just stretch and do cardio. We did a video last week. Cardio is not going to steal away your gains. It's really, really not. You'd have to be doing an insane amount of cardio, and stretching is going to help you not only in later life in terms of going to the gym, but it's going to help you in general as you get older. Make sure you stretch. Make sure you do cardio. If you can just find 25 minutes a week to do some sort of yoga, I promise you, it will help you massively. It's very sadly, one day life will catch up to you and it will kick your ass. And number 2 is enjoy the nothingness. Now, we're definitely getting philosophical now, but you don't always have to be doing something, right? This probably applies to any walk of life. I guess like FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. But sometimes you do have to take your foot off the gas. It's much like the weightlifting stuff we talked about earlier. And I remember in my 20s, I probably had it worse than I do now. Again, maybe because I've got life experiences. If you truly want to do something, life isn't going to pass you by because you have that tenacity and you have that want, you have that passion, you have that drive. But drive doesn't mean doing something 365 days and 7 days a week. It means you've got to be on it a lot of the time because, of course, you know, trying to break through anything when there's billions of people once again on the earth is going to be a struggle. But if you don't take time for yourself and you don't take time to just sit there and process everything you've done, sometimes you don't actually know where you need to go next. And I don't think in my 20s I was like that. It was almost like a scattergun approach. It was just like, oh, and running around and seeing what sticks. When actually you can be more systematic with it. And if you do have one specific goal, it will kind of, you know, show, the pathway will show itself to you anyway. But don't get too stressed about this stuff. Let it play out. Doesn't mean that you are going to get to the top of the mountain, but you may find somewhere else that you actually prefer being, and you never knew it. So I suppose a better way to put it would be to enjoy the journey. I'm sure you've heard that a million times. And the destination is important. I don't believe or agree when people say that. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Well, no, the destination is important too, but the journey is equally as important. So just make sure you try and enjoy every single day as much as you possibly can. Be it, you know, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. I mean, the world is always changing anyway in terms of what's old and what's not old. It's true though, right? Like look at football players. Weird analogy, but by 35 back in the day, you'd be retired in footballers. But because fitness has come so far and we've evolved in such a way, Harry Kane was even like, he's gone to Bayern Munich, but he thinks he can come back to the Premier League and probably break Alan Shearer's Premier League goal record, even though he's 30. Ronaldo's still playing. I think he's 39. Messi is 36, smashing in MLS. Ibrahimovic played till he was 41. That was never a thing. That was definitely a more of a goalkeeper thing back in the day. But that is kind of what happens in life. There'll be other things that come along, and some people don't even find what they're really meant to do until they're in their 40s. I mean, Ricky Gervais, I suppose, would be a good example of that, but there's loads. So yeah, just make sure you do enjoy those down days. Don't sit around and stress about it and feel like, oh man, you know, I'm not using the best of my time. Was it John Lennon that said? John Lennon said something like, you know, wasted time that you enjoy isn't wasted time because you enjoyed yourself. And ultimately, as long as you're happy, well, you've probably done something right. I am going to go throw number 1 in there for what we said earlier, which is dare to fail. That's right, I'll double down on it. Hopefully it will stick in your head a little bit. Or you can tell me to shut up, bald a-hole. That's perfectly fine as well. But I think those are 3 words that are really cool to remember, that they are silly and that they are ridiculous and they are over the top and they're like something you'd read on Instagram. But I like it, man. And it doesn't matter what it is. You want to go for a new job, go for it. You want to be in a band, go for it. You want to be a wrestler, go for it. You want to be a mountain climber, go for it. You want to be an actor, go for it. Somebody has to be the next person to do this. And regardless what your age is or even your talent levels, you may be exactly what somebody is looking looking for. But you might be in the right place in the right time. And even if you do try and become the best mountain climber ever, and you fall on your ass and you try, and after 3 years you're like, I can't do this anymore. What a badass 3 years you've had. You tried to become that mountain climber, and ironically, you weren't able to climb the mountain, which is why you should do that one. It's a funny story you can tell at cocktail parties. I don't know if that really pertains to my 20s. Well, actually, no, it kind of does, I think. I think if somebody had really driven that home to me and I'd actually embraced it as a saying, maybe there would have been other ways that I would have operated. I wouldn't have got so stressed about the little things. Maybe I'll put that in the number one as well. There's just no need, man. You have to deal with the little things, but the little things come and go. And also, you stress about one little thing, you get over it, you go, oh. And then another little thing comes up, because very sadly, that's just how life works. Also, remember, nobody has this stuff down. Everybody is suffering with their mental health in one. I mean, obviously, some people have it worse than others, but nobody is 100% all the time. So we're all in it together. I mean, what even the hell is life? Why don't you just pop out of a womb and somebody goes, there you go, you got 80 years. Let me know how you get on. Did I sign up for this? No. And now I got to deal with this shit? Fair enough. So believe in yourself too, again, and even if what you want to do is sit on a couch and eat pizza, well, that's a goal you can achieve every single day. So it's an amazing goal to have. You are going to be a super happy panda, and I massively appreciate it. Also, make sure you go in the comments below. Let me know if there's more of these you'd like to share with other people. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Please do click this video that's on the screen right now. It will be in a few seconds. That helps me massively, as does go to GorillaMind.com/Simon. You time to get 10% off. They've just launched their brand new electrolyte hydration drinks, which is absolutely crazy. This sounds like I've made it up. You don't have to believe me, but I literally started drinking these from another provider like 6 months ago. It's actually quite good for you, and they're just nice if you are on a diet, because they have tasted them and they're basically 0 calories. And Gorilla Mind have made some, and they're better than everybody else's. Now, yep, I'm affiliated with them. Of course, you would say that, but I truly believe it too. So if you use that code Simon, it does help me a little bit, and it helps you a little bit too, because you get some money off. I'm also on social media. We'll just call it Simon316. On Cameo, Simon Miller. Search for personalized video messages. Merchandise is pro wrestling tees and Samson Athletics, and I will have forgotten something, but that's okay. Make sure you have a good day. Thank you for listening to me today. Very weird video. You know, sometimes it's fun to do weird stuff. Take care. See you soon.